Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that's been making waves in the business world. Gen Z in the workplace. A recent report reveals that many companies are struggling with their Gen Z hires. Is it true? Are they really as unprepared as some claim? Stick with me through this video because at the end, I'm going to share my own thoughts and experiences as a veteran recruiter, whether this generation truly deserves the criticism or is there something else at play here. Let's jump in.
All right, everyone. So are you ready to dive into this whole Gen Z in the workplace thing? We're taking on your request for a deep dive. And let me tell you, some of these findings are pretty wild.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It seems like everyone's talking about this disconnect going on right now between what employers are expecting and what's actually happening.
And this Euronews article we're looking at, it doesn't mess around. Right off the bat, they hit you with this statistic. 60%, that's 60% of companies they surveyed said they let go of at least one recent Gen Z grad they hired this year.
Yeah, that's a crazy number when you think about it. It definitely makes you wonder what's going on. And it gets even more interesting when you look into why these firings are happening.
Okay, so lay it on me. What are employers saying?
Well, you're hearing stuff like a lack of motivation, professionalism, not being great at communicating, having trouble managing their workload, even showing up late or not really dressing the part.
See, now some of that just sounds like the same old generational stuff people always complain about, right? Like kids these days and all that. But it can't just be that simple, can it?
Right. There's definitely more to it. Let's rewind for a sec and think about what it was like for Gen Z growing up. I mean, this is the generation that was practically raised on the idea that to get anywhere, you got to have a resume bursting with extracurriculars.
Oh, totally. Trying to get into college these days is like its own competitive sport.
And that's where things get interesting. We've got experts chiming in, people like Holly Schroth from UC Berkeley. She's at the Haas School of Business. And they're saying that all that focus on extracurriculars might actually be hurting Gen Z when it comes to holding down a real job.
So it's like they're winning at getting into college, but then they hit the workforce and it's a whole new bowl game with a whole new rule book.
Exactly. And you get this, the article points out this weird paradox. So you've got all these employers saying Gen Z doesn't have a good work ethic or whatever. But then there's this other report that says 70% of young people looking for jobs, they leaned heavily on their parents during the whole job hunting thing.
Wait, really? Like mom and dad are proofreading their resumes.
Oh, it gets even wilder. Some Gen Zers are actually bringing their parents to job interviews.
Hold up, to the actual interview. Wow. Okay, I can see why that might make employers think twice about things like independence or even just basic professional boundaries. It's almost like it's almost like they missed a memo or something, right? They're showing up to a game without knowing the rules.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. And the thing is, it makes you wonder about this whole independence thing. Because they obviously want to be independent, right? But then they're turning to their parents for help in a way that just doesn't fly in the working world.
So how do we fix it? Is there a bridge we can build here? Because right now, you've got employers kind of freaking out about Gen Z and Gen Z feeling lost, and who knows what's going to happen.
Oh, for sure. And the good news is this article doesn't just leave us hanging. They actually talk about some of the good stuff that Gen Z brings to the table.
Yeah.
And one of the biggies is that they're digital natives. They've grown up with technology in a way that older generations just haven't, and that makes them crazy good with tech stuff, which is huge in pretty much every job these days.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, forget about it. They can whip up a website before breakfast, use all kinds of software without breaking a sweat, and their social media skills. Forget about it. That's definitely something you can't teach.
No kidding. And it goes beyond tech skills, too. Gen Z is known for being super adaptable and entrepreneurial. They're used to things changing really fast, and they're not afraid to take risks or try new things, and they've always got fresh ideas.
That makes sense. I mean, the world they grew up in is all about change, so they're probably way more comfortable rolling with the punches than some of us who still remember dial-up internet.
Right. And we can't forget about their drive to actually make a difference. Gen Z really cares about things like purpose and meaning in their work. They want to be passionate about what they do, and they're not afraid to speak up for what they believe in, which is pretty cool.
Okay, so hold on. We've got this generation that's awesome with technology, super adaptable, entrepreneurial, and they really care about making a difference. That sounds like a dream team to me, so what are we doing wrong?
Exactly, and that's why it's so important to figure out how to bridge this gap between what's expected of them and what they're actually ready for. The article talks about how Gen Z can make things easier on themselves. And one of the big things is taking initiative and showing a positive attitude and getting as much real-world work experience as possible.
For like internships and part-time jobs and even volunteering.
Yeah.
Right? Anything that shows they've actually been in the trenches and know how things work in the real world.
Yeah. And this might seem obvious, but the article really stresses how important it is to have a professional online presence.
Which, duh, these days your online presence is like your first impression.
Totally. And even though Gen Z knows their way around the internet, they might need a little reminder that what they post online is how people are going to see them professionally.
For sure. Like, you can't be posting those kind of questionable late-night memes and then be all surprised when a hiring manager is looking at you sideways in an interview.
And while we're on that topic, the article also says that maybe Gen Z should cool it on the controversial stuff at work, like politics and all that, especially when they're first starting out.
Yeah, I get that. Save the heated debates for your friends, not your boss. But okay, what about the employers? They have to meet Gen Z halfway too, right?
100%. The article's really clear about that. Employers got to step it up when it comes to training and onboarding. Like, this generation might need more hand-holding and support at the beginning to really get adjusted to the whole working world thing.
So no more just throwing them in the deep end and hoping they know how to swim.
Nope. It's about realizing that maybe the old ways of doing things just don't work anymore. Think about it. This generation has different expectations, they communicate differently, and they learn differently. They do really well with lots of feedback and working together.
It's like trying to talk to each other in different languages sometimes. Employers need to figure out how to communicate in a way that makes sense to Gen Z, and Gen Z needs to figure out how to navigate all those unwritten rules that everyone else just seems to know. It's like trying to get two totally different computers to work together, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where good training and onboarding come in. The article makes a big deal about how employers really need to step up their game there. It's like, instead of expecting Gen Z to just automatically know how to do things the way they've always been done, employers need to meet them in the middle, you know? Build a workplace that actually works for them and how they learn best.
So are we talking more coaching, more mentoring, just more communication overall? Is that what's going to make the difference?
Yeah, basically. This is a generation that really responds well to feedback and clear directions. They need to know exactly where they stand, what the boss expects, and how they can get better. And it's got to be in a way that's straight to the point and actually helpful.
So it's all about learning how to communicate with this generation in a way that actually lands, right?
Exactly. And that's another reason why real-world experience is so important. Internships, part-time jobs, even volunteering those things let Gen Z try out the working world and get some actual experience. And it's not just about looking good on a resume, it's about picking up those people skills and figuring out how to act at work.
Because let's be honest, nobody ever learned how to deal with office politics from reading a textbook, right?
You got it. So while Gen Z is out there getting that experience, employers got to be ready to offer extra support and guidance. Remember Holly Schroeth, the expert from that Berkeley Business School? Well, she says employers need to start thinking of themselves as coaches, not just bosses.
So less do it my way or else, and more let's figure this out together.
Exactly. It's about building a culture where everybody's learning and nobody's afraid to ask questions or ask for help. Gen Z needs a space where they can speak up, get the guidance they need, and yeah, even mess up sometimes without feeling like they're going to get fired.
Because we've all been there, right? We all made mistakes when we were starting out. That's how you learn.
100%. And that brings us to a really important point. This isn't just a Gen Z problem. This is about the future of work for everyone.
Because let's face it, Gen Z isn't going to be the new kid on the block forever. Right?
Exactly. So this is really about bridging that gap between generations and building workplaces where everybody feels respected, valued, and ready to bring their own unique skills and ideas to the table.
It's about recognizing that diversity makes us stronger, plain and simple.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something I want everyone listening to think about. We've talked a lot about how employers can adapt, but what about Gen Z? What can they teach the rest of us about being flexible, coming up with new ideas, and just navigating a world that's changing crazy fast?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's easy to get caught up in all the challenges, but the real opportunity here is figuring out how to learn and grow together. We've all got something to offer, and that's what makes this whole thing so interesting.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Keep those deep dive requests coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for sticking with me to the end. We've heard what the report says, But there's always more to the story, whether you're part of Gen Z or working alongside them. The workplace is always evolving, and so are the expectations. Personally, as a veteran recruiter, I don't like labels. I don't like categorizing people. I think we all have different interests. We all grew up in different times. We all have different experiences, and we have different mindset on work. So I think we need to judge people individually on results. I'm a big results-oriented person. So that's my 2 cents. If you want more, let me know. But let me know what you think in the comments. Have you had problems with Gen Z, or have you had problems with my generation, Generation X? So that's it for today. Have a great one. Talk soon.